My name is Miss Nancy, and we're here today talking about Paul and Silas and all the things that they did. Well, last week they were in Athens, as you remember. This time they have come over here to Corinth. When they're in Corinth, it turns out that Paul meets some folks by the name of Priscilla and Aquila. It's a husband and wife team. They used to live over here in Rome. This is Italy. And they used to be here in Rome. But Caesar, who was the Roman emperor, threw all the Jews out of Italy. And so they had moved over here to Corinth and were living here. But they were believers in Jesus. And so Paul and Silas were staying with him for a while. Well, you know how troublemakers come along. And so Paul and Silas decided they were going to live next door to the Jewish synagogue, so it'd be very easy to get to a good place to preach. And they were living with a guy by the name of Titus. Now, Titus was a really fine fellow, but Paul was kind of worried. You know, he got Jason in trouble when they were in that other town, and he didn't want anything to happen to Titus. And so he was kind of worried about, oh my goodness, are we going to have troublemakers come and put Titus in a bad situation and whatever? But God told him, you know what? There are a lot of people who are believers here in Corinth, and you're going to be just fine staying here and preaching the gospel. And I want you to stay here and do all you can. And so that's what Paul did. He stayed there for quite a while. Well, it wasn't long before Priscilla and Aquila decided that they were going to go with Paul the next time Paul went someplace. And the next time he went someplace was over here to Ephesus. And in Ephesus, the people who were with him, Priscilla and Aquila, that husband and wife team, they met a fella who was a believer in Jesus. He was from Egypt, and he had come up and he was preaching in that area as well. But he didn't know everything about Jesus. So Priscilla and Aquila helped him learn more about Jesus, what they had learned from Paul. And then Apollos, this fella who was from Egypt, he wanted to go to another place to preach. And Priscilla and Aquila wrote a letter recommending Apollos as a very good preacher and that he knew exactly what he was talking about, to take that letter with him as he went out and did some preaching. You know, sometimes we just need some help from our friends, and that's exactly what was happening here. And when it comes to preaching, like we said, sometimes it's good not to go by yourself, but to go with other people. So Priscilla and Aquila were going together. And Apollos, even though he was going out by himself, he had the letter of recommendation so that when he went, those people would know that he was a true and good fellow. What do you think about that? Do you think it was a good idea? Would you be willing to recommend somebody to your friends and say, this is a really great fella. I really like him and he's a friend of mine and he knows what he's talking about. Sometimes adults do that when somebody's going to get a job. And that's exactly what Priscilla and Aquila were doing. We have to help each other out because we're all a family. It doesn't matter whether it's just people we know in our own family, in our own church, but in the whole entire community of believers throughout the world. We're all like one big family. That's why we do mission work, right? Because we're helping each other out. And that's why Paul was doing mission work too, because he was so excited about telling about Jesus. He wanted to go out and tell the whole world. Well, I'll see you next Sunday. Take care. Bye.